Welcome everyone to another of our in-depth full stack and open source live streams here with our funny tiny little just raw upstream mostly and fixed patched and sources Linux distributions here. And the other day we had this poll here where we could run Firefox now on a 586 with dedication efforts, certainly theoretically also on a 46, but yeah. And made this poll here. It's like, do you want to see that on real hardware? Because QEMU was one thing, should work on real hardware, what would the real performance be and stuff. And to my surprise, initially quite some people voted Sgi Octane 02, and then recently P3 stuff overtook. But anyway, figured we didn't build this for MIPS. And welcome everyone. Microkernel video coming soon. And so the crazy thing is, of course, here's the one and only most crazy, and what did I title that? You never get bored. What was my wording there that I've shamelessly stolen? Certainly never getting bored here with, let's open this code here. So it's easy to never get bored with anything you're working on, because it's literally everything. Thanks for that, level 1 tech. And that certainly is quite our motto here. And turns out not only there's a Firefox update, which of course we want to ship to you guys at home. Firefox, it's probably, should we, oh wait a second, we also did this wrong. Does it also load like that? Probably. Nothing like loading that twice. But I also put some efforts in here, and I actually built MIPS. So they're MIPS64. So we previously built, I think I tested that for 32-bit MIPS little endianness, MIPSL, MIPS endianness little on an Imagination CI20 board here, which also wasn't particularly fast. And last evening, I spent some extra 2 hours. And so previously we built, the complication on MIPS is that there are so many ABIs. There's old-fashioned 32-bit, then there is 64-bit, then there is new 32-bit for 32-bit with newer calling conventions for 64-bit processors, and there might even be N64 for newer calling convention, maybe, but plus minus, give or take. So usually we have at least to deal with all 32. I mean, if whatever we want to support, the benefit, of course, the newer calling convention, a little bit higher performance, as you would expect. But legacy MIPS binaries, all 32, newer MIPS binaries, N32, especially if you, like, for performance, cache efficiency, recurring theme here, right, defaulting to 32-bit, especially on those vintage machines, or even back in the day, with like a whopping 768 megabyte of memory or stuff. Even then, less than 4 gigabytes. So even back in the day, SGI on IRIX and stuff defaulted to 32-bit binaries for performance. But so that has a lot of complexity. Why do I say this? Because the toolchain needs to add up, and unfortunately nowadays, I criticized this a couple of times, for Firefox we need our system compiler, which usually is GCC. Unfortunately, we also need Clang. Yes, some people love Clang, but for me, Clang is doesn't support architecture, is not as stable and stuff, and yada yada yada, long story short. But especially there you see you need not only GCC perfectly working, but also Clang perfectly, or that also means LVM, which is why we can't have Firefox full architectures anymore, unfortunately, because Rust. Then the next thing, Rust. And then all those ABI stuff need to match with O32, N32, and so on. And that's exactly what happened. And I tried to build that. Of course, it didn't instantly work. Let's also SVN switch. So the good story. So yeah, previously I wanted to say previously, like until yesterday, we defaulted to N32 for a little bit higher performance on Sgi Octane or O2. And the problem is then we need to have that working with Clang and Rust, and Clang could support this. I'm not even really sure if Rust, maybe they would support this. But that's the thing, right? Even if you get some code generated and it somehow links, it's probably segmentation faulting, because who else is using it, right? But the good story, so this is why I'm thinking maybe I should actually change maybe even the P3 stuff, but that is severely memory limited. I'm wondering if we should change the Spark 64 and MIPS 64 build the crazy stuff is on a Spark or Sun or Spark, Ultra Spark Sun or Sgi MIPS64, you can easily have more memory on a 20-plus-year-old system than a freaking P3, right? Maybe I should change this default. That would make supporting that a little more streamlined. Of course, testing, the more testing. If the issue is, I mean, I could epic thread wrap everything except I need to fix the bloody bugs all over the place, and bugs and regressions, because the only constant is change and regressions. And building like more architecture defaults, like more, not to say default, but like more native. I mean, the historic default was N32, but like more architecture, kind of native or something default choice like 64-bit makes this stuff with Rust a little bit easier. I got Firefox built. However, there's also one more thing. So I looked into Rust yesterday. We could, do I have this? Probably I deleted it earlier. So I changed for a test build for 64 bit, like proper, like N64, like real 64-bit default stuff, and I could get Firefox built. Unfortunately, even with this change, right? Even this took already 2 hours with building and stuff. What you usually do after work when you run a Linux distribution, and it will not work. I know that already because I had to change the default. I usually build like quite like not. I mean, there is not that much to optimize for risk, but otherwise I built like for R10K or something, like MIPS4. I think the difference is probably minor between generic MIPS4 and R10K, aka T5. But the issue is that Rust is currently defaulting to MIPS64, which is a newer instructions architecture from 2002 or so, which is like probably like 5 years newer. The difference should be minor, but you can't like link the stuff together. And I wonder how much effort we should put in there. The crazy stuff is, so I built now some stuff. That's also the recurring theme here. Why in general, even for x86, I'm not the greatest fan of statically optimized compiled code, because you always have something newer, and at least common denominator there. Same even for MIPS, although there is not that much changed. And to run this, so first of all, I need to commit some stuff. I have here one fix. So I fixed our Clang, so of course it just didn't work because complexities, ABIs and stuff, and also the recurring viewer know that already, that I'm a little bit dissatisfied with all the hard-coded stuff or code quality and stuff. So the hard-coded things is with Clang. So our so previously that probably did work. Yeah. So the N64. Actually, I'm not even entirely sure. I would need to check exactly. Maybe we quickly check that. So what I had to do, because I mean, of the first try, even with all these changes and configuration and so on, Firefox didn't build because Clang didn't find C++ headers, so the recurring Clang GCC paths. Imperfections here, if not to call it bullshit. I mentioned already probably 5 times in the meantime that I'm not so impressed with this code quality and the setup of hard-coded freaking passes. It's completely, it shouldn't be like that entirely and stuff. But yeah, it's a fix for that is as easy as patching here MIPS64 T2 Linux GNU ABI64. I'm just not even sure. This is a thing. Even I lose overview of. We already built 24 architectures, so I could build even more variants. But there's also not. The problem is, of course, I'm only wasting precious electrons here. AKA energy, warming the office and wasting my time, and also like having to constantly patch that and maintain and patch that, and especially stuff constantly breaking. So having like even shipping 2 MIPS variants, like this is also, I mean, very few people use that, right? Only my friends and family, and maybe some of you playing along at home. Even I don't run my Sgi Octanes as a daily driver, obviously. Also, I still have to set up my O2 with Linux and patch the Linux kernel to even freaking work stable on it, because it has a freaking state-of-the-art R12K CPU. That's not stable with Linux, obviously, but I think it obviously doesn't make sense to ship a more modern MIPS64, which would be like this Calvium networks or something, or Octane, or what was called CPU stuff, which like a decade ago they were actually new non-SGI MIPS CPUs. They're of course very, very, very little. I mean, even modern, right? I mean, I would even say most people probably would rather play with vintage SGI gear than with like KVM. The sad thing is, once someone wanted to donate one, like a decade ago, like KVM networks, Octane or something. But as so often people promise stuff like, hey, we have this old stock in the company, we can send you one. It never arrived here. So anyway, if you have one of those modern MIPS64 things somewhere laying around, donations welcome, as well as Patreon and GoFundMe and YouTube membership or OnlyFans. Because I see it already. What are the issues, right? I would need to spend some minutes to test build that. I mean, maybe we do that now. I also need to go to lunch. So the long story, hey, even only 12 minutes. I thought it's even fast someone, right, for our stuff here. I wanted actually to check. So yeah, the issue with that is to have, I mean, I'm relatively close to having latest Firefox and an Sgi Octane, and who wouldn't want that, especially on the O2 potentially. But it's just so much freaking work, right? I mean, it's a good thing we never get bored with all the shit we have to do, but I mean, obviously it's not really worth it, except for fun and the YouTube audience here. It will certainly not be fast. Maybe I should first unbox a Pentium board and run this x86 thing there to get an impression of how slow that will be. But the sad thing is, of course, nowadays any high-performance workstation is no good use if you don't have a freaking browser, right? I mean, it will not be snappy. That is another thing of complexity of the modern web. But yeah, at least you can look up some static T2 pages or some local man pages. So okay, so we have here actually two things. So I'm actually wondering, why do we we have okay. Then I actually wonder then GNU ABI. Then I actually think good that we looked this up, because I didn't even quite remember anymore. Now I wonder, maybe we probably would need to do some research, check GCC sources. It's good that we checked this, because that also means we probably should patch the other paths. And yeah, theoretically, in my opinion, Clang should the issue is Clang should look this up with compilation. The only thing is Clang always supports cross compilation, which is nobody is using, but that is a thing that Clang can't check all the dozen of cross compilation targets if you would want to use them. So that is a bit of a thing. So we probably should patch that then too, because N32 obviously has not worked before. Because I slightly wonder, I mean, maybe we probably, maybe F64, I guess we do the same API 64. The thing is, now I didn't test that. What was the other? Was the other N64? This name's also strange, or at least, yeah. N32, what did I say? Yeah, somehow this is a relatively new thing of new of 2 decades of having additional ABI suffixes here for your arch target. So GNU ABI N32, so we probably, no, I didn't test that now. Maybe we should. What I usually do, I mean, usually I should recompile that, just nah. Oh, this is also a older NVI. Maybe we should have used Vim. This is an old installation. Just to have better highlighting here. What I do is check this for typos, T2, Linux, ABI, just to better see that we don't have a typo there. What have I even done there? So that is, have I even edited the right thing here, or did I not save that? Don't tell me I didn't save that though. Maybe I didn't save that. Oh no, wait, did I edit that here? MIPS, MIPS here. Why do we have so many? Now I lose overview. MIPS64 triplet, N32. So these are. Actually, wait a second, we had that here already. Good that we double check that. Musel, ABI N32, GNU, ABI N32. Okay, I guess I didn't change that. Why do we even have... why do we even have then 2 here? I think we probably should only patch in the working ones. Makes little sense to patch in a path we didn't. We probably should only patch in what we actually use there. And maybe no idea if Musel supports this, but then maybe we also make this GNU ABI. What do we call this? Musel ABI N64. I guess Musel API 64, if they even support this, but anyway, future proving that a little bit. I actually should test that again. Yeah, testing, some more testing. So what would we need it to, what we actually could do, we would need to patch Rust for that to even have a chance to work. So this, I guess I delete this here, because I don't even have hardware to test that. 64, I named the 64. So that built fully otherwise, but yeah, that was optimized for MIPS64, which is again 1 generation newer ABI than ISA instructions set architecture than MIPS4 as implemented in the Sgi Octane and O2. MIPS64 test here. Let's change this. So the issue is if we change that back here to R, and so maybe we should actually rename that a bit. Beside, there are newer MIPS64. There should be new releases. Yeah, R2, R3, R5, R6. Maybe we should even change that CPUs to... Although I think they have strange workarounds, but otherwise maybe we should just use MIPS 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. Yeah. No, but well, maybe we'll just leave it now for that. So what we usually would also controls had stopped that wrong. So usually I think we probably build that, which is what I have in the Octane. And yeah. Wait a second, did I? So yeah, 64. So unfortunately this will build a while. Probably can go to lunch. And we would need to patch at least Rust though. That is clean. Maybe I should have done this last night though. What do we have currently? By the way, there probably for sure is a new Rust release, right? .161. I think this might be a tad newer potentially. Yeah. Cargo 2, maybe, potentially. Actually, you know what, let's add this to data. Yeah. Oh, we have here Rust already, okay. Because eventually we want data to take care of that cargo side. That doesn't look quite right. What the heck? Side bill? Are you freaking kidding me? Crates IO. Of course, that is not cargo IO. Where's the freaking version of that? Probably with 0.62. Yep, that is also a bit just, yeah, so it's a recurring win-win of the only constant is changing. Obviously we want to have the latest and greatest stuff. So with Rust, where was that? Alright, we even need to, no, we don't need to patch Clang, I think. At least yeah, I checked this yesterday. They didn't have, fun fact, Clang does not support the same, as per often, that is also for other architectures at times. Usually they support most, but sometimes not all, or sometimes different compiler architecture options than GCC, because why should they use the same, right? And so that's not so, they default to MIPS64. And of course we wanna RM that for better grabbing. Don't need that here. What is our Rust update doing? I mean, theoretically, should we compile test that? Maybe we should give that a very quick. Just see if our patches apply. As you've seen, we at times have patches for all the exotic stuff. I just have a check, seeing as it mostly starts to work. We will see another day if that. I'll test it for now. Oh darn, I should actually check. Sometimes I have so much too. Quickly committing that, but that was clean because I need to be careful not to accidentally commit some random stuff that sometimes happens live on YouTube in the action of a YouTube live stream. Yeah, we also need to find proper solutions for this create IO index stuff. That is just, but I guess that should have been yet. That has also a chance to just freaking build TM. And then this MIPS patch, so they even support you some stuff. Added tier 3 support for MIPS unknown. Oh, even Musel ABI 64, they have it, they even theoretically supports it. So there is some Rust targets back for MIPS, that stuff here. It's probably that stuff here. I checked this last night already, so there should be MIPS64. They have, I think, 2 locations for this stuff, unfortunately. Unknown Linux GNU. So by the way, so they would this be, let's check if they have MIPS unknown. Do they have N32? Maybe not. Do they have in here though? Where do they have the API? I wouldn't necessarily rely that this is N32. Which is also, I think, yeah, I think if we get, I mean, yeah, I think the deal is as per usual. I mean, sometimes I need to guru meditate and reflect and think about this stuff for some minutes. It's always, I mean, always when you like first like think something, like your first thought is not necessarily always the best. I mean, the first thought might have been, but we want performance, performance, performance. And we keep it like that, but it makes no sense if the performance might be probably less than 5% potentially or something. on an Sgi Octane. And it makes no sense to waste hours, if not days of my life of getting Firefox and Rust and stuff patched and configured for N32 for 5% performance. Then it is of course nicer between shedding so much time on this stuff and having it just working than for now. And obviously the first step is just getting it to work right, and later you can optimize on other exotic stuff. So that would be like, the deal probably is, if we get this to work at all, we probably ship in the, I mean, if we obviously change this to ship the 64-bit variant there, and then we can always, I mean, yeah, there obviously is no business use case right now. If in a decade MIPS64 takes over the world again, then we can still do that. So this is a little bit hard-coded here. That is of course not ideal. So yeah, that is the thing. I'm not sure if any of their stuff relies on MIPS. It's like, yeah, Node matches C toolchain, but not ours. That is the disappointment, recurring disappointment here. Some stuff is kinda amazing, except if it isn't. And for me, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of stuff at Rust, LVM, Clang. Sure, they are monumental projects. There's a lot of good stuff, but I mean, even if 90% stuff is amazing, some stuff are a little bit lacking. It's also so crazy, right? That code generation, all the other architecture is kind of mostly sort of amazing. But how can they get the small hanging fruits here, low hanging fruits, so strange of hard coded stuff? Anyway, cheers. We would need, so the thing is with features, I'm not sure how they use these features though. I would need to do some research on what exactly this feature thing is doing. I think, should there not be MIPS N64 though, or did they only had a? Do they have O60, or maybe this could be? So need to do some more research. If there was, but maybe everyone's just using a new N64 variant, who knows. So CPU we would need to have MIPS 4, and there, by the way, we need to save that first. And there is, I don't know if this works. We obviously need to test a Hello World also then. What we need, I think they use MIPS 4, and this features, I wonder if we can leave this empty or something. Features, do all files have that? Maybe we check with, here for example, unknown Linux, they have features, none, let's see. Oops. Here features though. That is interesting, they have negative features. Also, I think they probably pass it directly to the LVM backend. At least that is my expectation. I wonder if one can leave it empty. Where would be... Okay, certainly... There is it. I don't grab features on. Okay, this features, why is there a stray base? Is that right? Who knows? That is a bit strange. Okay, they also don't have features in here, so create spec target. Target. I mean, it looks like maybe it could be empty. I wonder why they had their MIPS64 R2. And yeah, let's see what happens, I guess. If you work on, I mean, it makes no sense to research this in the whole Rust code base. It's obviously faster to just try that. Also, this is the wrong one. So yeah, that is, let me think. Maybe we also need to patch Clang to default to that potentially. I'm not sure if it is possible that Firefox in our GCC system compiler, that Firefox is only using Clang for C-bind generation, potentially maybe, but I didn't quite research that. I only know that Firefox is using Clang in this Rust modules and at least C-bind gen stuff. So that would be Rust, C, let's see what else do we have there. I guess we just call this MIPS64 patch. Theoretically we would need to do that dynamically to use our, yeah, basically, yeah, the question is, should we, yeah, that's a little bit complex, to be honest. I mean, probably in an ideal world, we probably should patch the default to match our GCC default. But we could also, in the beginning, YOLO that, which we might want to do anyway for a Rust and Clang wrapper, which is on our to-do. But you see, this stuff is never done. There's always one more thing. I mean, obviously it's not one more thing, but it's easy to never get bored with anything we are working on. Because literally everything, right? Topic of this video. But yeah, I'm really curious if this has a chance to work. I mean, everything else used to work for that MIPS stuff. So yeah, that needs probably another 45 minutes to epic thread rip through that. And unfortunately warming the office doing so. Maybe we could, maybe as the last thing, and then I really go for lunch. 30 minutes, not the worst time for a live stream. Let's, also that is the wrong one. That should be Clang, right? I would expect that to be in Clang. We probably also could check if there's a Clang patch. Sometimes there is. Like, oh wow, freaking, they have 14.05. Are you kidding me? Wow. Just like that, we have some updates to do. Yeah, did you notice running a Linux distribution is a full-time job? You are welcome to like and subscribe, Patreon, GoFundMe. You guessed it right. Raise your hand if you knew running Linux distributions is a full-time job. Oh, and by the way, more main channel, right? We raised our, for me to free more time and you motivating you and earning a living. We raised our feature bounties, right? If you want to do this fun stuff for our selected more main channel there yesterday. 25% increase, was it 20? I think 25% increase or something, 20 or so, 25%. Many of our feature bounties here for you actually making a buck or two. So what were we about to do? All right, Alvin Kling. So yeah, a tiny little bit win-win. So that was 14, I think we have 14.01. Config default packages. I wonder if this are all, why don't we have LLVM there? That is a little bit suspicious. Oh wow, we have LVM. How did that update to 14.0? Okay, we have some 14.0 for some strange reason. Who did that though? Did we do? Maybe Data? Did Data do something? What was it? LVM. This is also the yeah, Data updated some stuff. Interesting. Why did Data only find some of those packages? Strange. Anyway, So 14, now we need to maybe, why does it, okay, let's grab leading 14 and then cut delimiter space field 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. Probably I need to, we probably teach aka mark with metadata our packages for data to only update like this kind of groups like ALSA or LVM family of like auto update all of them at once atomically. For all of this stuff there and cut that stuff. Oops. Yeah, 33-degree warm liquid there. So we built already our, no, we patched only Rust. Alright, we also wanted to check Clang. Let's see, MIPS64. And so that is a little bit, let's delete the tests here. I always like to do that to better grab sources. It's a little bit quick hack. So theoretically, would that be here? Is MIPS R6? What do they have here? Linux, something, GNU, ABI. There they have actually some MIPS N32 ABI. Okay, that is just this road and stuff. Actually, is that even? Maybe we need to patch that too a bit. But so they have their MIPS R6 or MIPS64. I think that probably has a chance to work, but it's also not ideal. We would need the default processes somewhere. Where would that be? Apparently not there. Which again is, oops, what have I, alright, we wanted to grab that. So here we have options. So basically what I do is trying to find out where they assign the default processor. So they have, maybe it's that, maybe it is that one here. Processor support, okay, that is CPU names as well as CPU names. So here you see they don't support this R10000 and stuff because where would be the default 0? What is it? String MIPS target get ISA revision. Okay, they use get CPU, somehow default is 0 for whatever strange reason. Not sure if that would work with anything, but get CPU, there is. It is not here though, at least as far as I see. Yeah, that's always a little bit annoying to find out where they are hiding that. Maybe this one here. Alias. Would they still have that maybe in this one? No. So basically we would need to find out where they would be hiding that to match, because as I said, we could wrap this, but even if we would wrap Cling, which we should someday, it would still not support our current default or use of R10K. What do they do there? Target info, triplet of get arch. And count name? What the heck? Why is this even deleted? Not even sure how that happened. Maybe some merge Cling stuff tasks, that probably looks good. Did I not commit this as IMD? So some quick check. Maybe we should let's quickly see if just a little bit of checking if our patches apply. Nothing like committing this and our patches don't even apply. Just tiny little bit of most bare minimum. Okay, that configures. That also configures. There. Yeah, you know what? It's probably fine. I hope. There we have that, and then again, this will still need some 14 minutes. Oh, by the way, this is super strange that Cling unpacks here some CMake stuff. That's I realized this really last night. It is totally professional. So. Wasn't in there, yeah. Here is some CPU, return CPU. Now this is maybe here. Wait a second, CPU equals, here probably. Maybe that could potentially look like. Also, nothing like having code and headers, but what am I to judge here? Target info, this looks maybe that some of this could be the default stuff. That looks a little bit like that could be the default stuff. But yeah, this is also a thing. In my opinion, this new code stuff, we have not, and I'm totally aware that I'm the messenger here. LLM Cling is certainly one of the higher code quality projects, but it's massive, and even that is somehow not the super best practices. To me, it's also kind of strange that we still have not arrived at some more consistent kind of code quality. And certainly, the problem certainly is also that in C and C++, there wasn't like the most standard. Maybe as much as I hate this Rust cargo stuff, maybe that has at least some attention to establish a more standard of creating packages, but somehow, yeah, it's somehow not ideal that there is not more of a standard of how to implement stuff. So this looks to me like MIPS target info here. So basically, they either default to O32 or if it's GNU ABI N32. So yeah, so that are, as I mentioned already, it's three major MIPS ABIs. So the problem with that is that this is not something I have. Maybe my CI20 MIPS technology, CI20 is MIPS32R2 potentially, but means theoretically we could leave that here. We could potentially leave that here. But that is also the thing. I mean, although maybe not, because I mean, this should only be the default. I mean, you should be able to override that. But I mean, if you target vintage SGI gear, which is of course 30 years old, then it would be MIPS2 or so. I mean, maybe we patch that here for now. That would be MIPS. Did I make a copy already? Probably not. Oops. And that would be the thing to test whether this actually has a chance to work. I think they support MIPS4, at least that is what I saw last night. And that is, what even is CI20 MIPS32? Is it even revision 2? I mean, we should have that here in the hardware listing. Board MIPS should be here somewhere. Or is it imagination tech? Should that be visible here? MIPS. Doesn't say. I thought it would say that here is ABI stuff. Apparently not, maybe. Standards, right. Each architecture outputting, there's some other random stuff. MIPS32. Where is this? This is one. That one here. Nah. Some random product page. Thank you very much. So crazy that in this day and age you get the best information on Wikipedia mostly. G said, what did I say? Xburst. So Xburst 1, I guess that is Xburst 1. Or is it Xburst 1? Yeah. So that 4780. Was it 4780? 4780. What did it previously? So yeah, that is not a revision 2 as I remembered. At least I think. Wait a second. This is dual MIPS. Wait a second. No, it is actually MIPS32 revision 2. Okay, I even have that, apparently, but what do we target on? What is our MIPSL target? We even have here, okay, we default actually to that for some. Maybe because I remembered it. Yeah. I mean, maybe we should try revision 1 though. Maybe we should try. I should research what are the differences. But Okay, let's leave it like that. That is kind of what we built, and let's see if this MIPS64 thing. We probably need to rebuild that, obviously, so that would be MIPS64, 64, cling. To have that to match, and with that it's time, another 50 minutes dedicated to supporting everything. The last people standing supporting the last crazy architectures, and soon vintage and retro and stuff. Although you probably still find, I mean, of all things, that is not even the worst stuff to support, is given that there are probably still some MIPS routers and access points, maybe even still sold today, which probably are MIPS32, R6, or who knows what. Anyway, hope you found this interesting and learned something. Another day here live from our Linux distribution. Don't forget to like, subscribe, Patreon, GoFundMe, YouTube membership, or OnlyFans, or stuff like that. Have a lovely day, and I hope to see you soon for the next fun stuff to come. Oh, and obviously I will update you as soon as I have Firefox running, or Sgi Octane or something. Cheers.